Hey, everybody. It wouldn't be a shill show with a little technical difficulty, now would it? Sorry about that, guys. That's on me. So I want to welcome everybody to the show and thank you for coming here. Share out, get all your friends here. This is going to be an awesome show. It's our second show of Ukraine Beyond the Headlines, where we bring a little more insight to Ukraine that's not our regular news with our special guests. So we all know that music is made by people who are speaking from their hearts. So this show is going to be Hearts and Minds of a Musician from Ukraine. We all know music isn't just words and instruments. It's a universe of feelings that's unique to the musicians and their audience. Throughout history, music reflects all of the changes that have happened in different societies, whether it be European, American, and today it's going to be about Ukraine. So we hope you enjoy the show. Thank you to all our moderators and our team in advance, and especially thank you to Dick Dawson. Olga, you're next.
Thank you so much, Annette. First of all, welcome back, guys. It's great to have you back with us. And thank you so much for streaming in, tuning in, listening to us from wherever you are. So first of all, my name is Olga, as Annette mentioned. I'm from Ukraine. And today is a very special stream because we are all the huge music fans out there, can learn more about Ukrainian music, and I hope you get to fall in love with it as much as I do love it. And Dima here is a fantastic guest to talk about Ukrainian music, being a musician himself. And I would like to take a moment of attention just to bring a little bit more information about myself. So, being Ukrainian, I'm from city of Uman. It's a small town in the central part of Ukraine. And today we have a sad anniversary of 1 year since the last Russian missile strike in the multi-storied building. It has been a devastating terror attack on Russian side. There were over 26 people who died in this building. 6 of them were kids. My group mate was heavily injured in that building. I had to be evacuated with the help of the Air Force and the guys who helped to evacuate people. And many people, unfortunately, couldn't survive this terror attack. And I just want to thank you all for supporting Ukraine, for donating into the right cause, and for being here for us, because it matters. Thank you so much. On to you, Jana.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. And Oya, sorry for the people you lost that day. On to our guest. Originally. And today we are going to be talking about Ukrainian music and the evolution thereof and how it has developed. Dima also plays in 2 bands, but I think Dima can introduce himself a bit better than I can. So Dima, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, well, first of all, my heart goes out to all the people in Uman who lost their loved ones, of course, to our great Ola. Being from Mariupol, born and raised, later moved to Kyiv, but I mean, it's a weird feeling to be away from your hometown and getting news almost daily that something has been destroyed, bombed, another missile, another this barraging bomb or whatever. But this is the reality that we live in, and it kind of ties into the creative output that us Ukrainians do. We're a very musical nation. More on that later. As I mentioned, I'm I was born and raised in Mariupol, moved to Kyiv in 2011. So it was a very, very different country back then, very different world. And back then it felt normal to be listening to Russian artists. Back then it felt normal to be writing music and performing in Russian, especially to us in the east of the country, where the majority of us were Russified as a result of a very, very, very violent history of events. I'm sure all of you have heard about the Holodomor, which was a genocidal effort to eradicate basically whichever there's left of Ukrainian culture. Because, like, just talking about my region, it wasn't like that all the time. So back at the end of, I guess, 19th century, Mariupol alone had over 60%, maybe even closer to 70% of Ukrainian-speaking people. It was a Ukrainian town. It was a Cossack fortress, first and foremost. And then the Imperial powers kind of stepped in and, well, with time, they brought more and more Russian-speaking people. With time, they tried to eliminate more and more Ukrainian-speaking people, to the extent that a lot of Ukrainian-speaking people have left residing in villages, small towns, and imperial powers, whether it was Russian Empire or then the Soviet Empire, made sure that Ukrainian language and Ukrainian culture was as unpopular as possible, kind of forcing young talents to choose Russian for the sake of, I guess a vulgar word would be getting more popularity and traction, gaining more audience. And that kind of persisted throughout the whole era of the Soviet occupation. And I don't refer to the Soviet era of Ukraine by anything else than an occupation. So the occupants made sure that there was less and less Ukrainian, and there were more and more Russian. And but Ukrainians being very musical nation, and you have paintings and pictures all over with warriors, Cossacks playing the guitar or whatever like string instrument of that time. My memory escapes me, pardon for that. And the musical soul of Ukrainians, it always cannot help but manifest itself. And we have witnessed that all throughout very important tectonic changes that were happening in Ukraine were always followed by a song. And my memory makes me travel back to 2004. It's the first time when we kind of got that national effort to unite and to show everyone that Ukraine exists. It's a separate country, it's a separate people, very talented. I might be carrying away a lot, so don't be shy to interrupt me. Yeah.
Can we go back to before 2004? And I only know about this because Olga mentioned it to me, and then you mentioned it to me. And I'm like, hey, 2 Ukrainians. But I know there was the Chervona Ruta festival. And I know what happened there. It was a big festival. So I'm going to explain it to chat like someone from outside of Ukraine, and then you guys can do it in depth. So I'm going to sound really dumb as I explain it because I don't know much about it. But this was a big festival. And the prerequisite was only Ukrainian music was allowed to be played here. And a lot of your musicians who were Ukrainian and were singing in Russian switched like this, and all of a sudden entered Ukrainian songs, just to be able to to sing at this music festival. And this was also the first time that the what is now the Ukrainian national anthem was sung in public. So, Olga, I think if you could give a bit of background on that, and then Dima, you can tell us a bit kind of how that developed, and going from there, how we got to, you know, the change that happened in 2004 after the Orange Revolution.
Yeah, sure. Ola?
You're
Would you like to take it away?
yeah.
So firstly, yeah, thank you so much, Jana, for bringing it up. So back in 1998, that's like 3 years prior to Ukrainian independence announcement. And that was when Ukraine was still under the Soviet control and Soviet rule. And it was super huge to actually have a festival that's going to be solely Ukrainian. Within, like, all the singers would sing only in Ukrainian. And that was the time, like Jana mentioned, when the Ukrainian anthem was sung for the first time publicly on the event like that. Can you imagine how huge that was?
It was a huge risk.
That. I was like a kid, but I still remember that. And it was affecting me being a child. That was the first question when I asked my mom, was like, what that song is? And my mom was like, I'm not sure. We didn't even know that it was a Ukrainian anthem, which became later official Ukrainian anthem. But Dima, please take it a go and talk more about it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. It was a huge, huge risk. But us Ukrainians, being very risky people, brave people as well, and a bit opportunistic, I think the powers that be and the people who organized the festival kind of took the opportunity or used the opportunity brought by perestroika, where the central government control, I guess, became a bit looser. The 80s in the Soviet Union wasn't a good time. And in the aftermath of the Afghan fiasco, the so-called jail of people, as well, people in my family call that a jail of people, the Soviet Union. So it started to rip at the seams a bit, and at that point, people decided to take a huge risk upon themselves and do a festival with only Ukrainian performers. And I guess the first one was in 1989, which is the year that I was born. But I remember, I guess, the one that they did in 1995, and it was in Crimea, because that year produced a lot of artists that would later become our main musical stars. And to kind of give you the sense of how huge Chervona Ruta was, exposing the audience to artists and performers, Ukrainian artists and performers, has initiated this boom of national identity resurrection. All of a sudden, people heard the Ukrainian national anthem for the first time. It was beautifully performed with three essentially solo artists who performed there, coming together and uniting in this great moment of great moment of uprising of the national spirit. And it was so successful that they kept doing it. And I remember a lot of bands that I've later come to be watching regularly in the Ukrainian music charts, programs like Territoria A. Actually, I did some research, and there was another great program. It's called Tues. I remember it because I would come home from school, and I would I needed something to watch to kill time before cartoons start. And it just so happened that the Ukrainian music chart was on at the time, and well, that was like my first time of actually meeting Ukrainian song and Ukrainian modern song, Ukrainian artists that were, well, I guess to me, they sounded even better than the foreign ones. Maybe because it was sung in Ukrainian and kind of touched a lot deeper than any like UK or American performer at the time. Well, especially in 1995, didn't know any English.
Yeah, and I know, Olga sent all of us this link to this short documentary. And in it, the guy, well, first of all, those of you who watched our show last week, you remember Maxim. And we made a short reference to the executed Renaissance, who were all these who were Ukrainian intellectuals and artists, poets and writers, who were killed by Russia in the 1920s, 1930s. But in this documentary that Olga shared with us, this artist, the presenter of this documentary actually spoke about that all these artists Dima just told us about, all these guys who kind of rose up at Chervona Ruta and these other Teritoria A, these other shows, eventually got kind of bought over by Russia. And he made the comment calling them the bought Renaissance, which I think is a very interesting way. It fits.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but quite a few, yeah.
Quite a few of them. And he pointed out, like, they interviewed quite a few musicians, and they said that it was a combination of things, of producers all of a sudden saying that, no, but, Russia is saying we've got a population of 140 million. Wouldn't you rather want to perform for us? And Ukrainian musicians would say, we'd love to sing in Ukrainian, but there aren't any songs available. That kind of, Dima, was that something you saw with your influence, like growing up? Was that something you saw, like this shift?
Well, yeah, to take one step back, I'd say there's a pattern. Like the central imperial government, every time when it felt like it's about to lose Ukraine, they would loosen their control over the Ukrainian culture. So then inevitably, Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian music, literature, movies would get a resurrection period. To a point where the central government would become scared that like Ukrainians have started to be like a lot more Ukrainian all of a sudden. So we need to tighten the control. And back in 20th century, which is the bloodiest century, in my belief, it was by physically eliminating people, throwing them to jails, or sending them to Far East and North to work for free, essentially to become a slave, to work their like artistic nature away out of them. Then you would get that in the 50s and the 60s as well. Stalin has died. There was like this period of uncertainty, and all of a sudden the grip again loosened, and that kind of made way to a new generation of Ukrainian artists. So they've burst onto this scene, they started to become popular, and then inevitably the Ukrainian identity started to crystallize itself. And when that happens, the inevitable question is, why the hell are we being controlled by some people in Moscow? Like, we are capable, perfectly capable to do that on our own, but it went against the policy of the Communist Party, right, of the central government. So they would eliminate that generation once again. And every time you would get a resurrection of Ukrainian culture, you would get a severe elimination efforts. You would get a resurrection of Ukrainian culture, you would get the severe elimination. But when Ukraine has finally restored its independence in 1991, all of a sudden Moscow could not go about killing people anymore, but they've used another filthy resource that they have, which is money. And I don't want to give them credit, but whenever something evil comes up, Russia somehow excels at being this cruel, evil, malicious and political entity that kind of spread their hands far beyond their own borders. But this time, they kind of lured Ukrainian artists into this fairy tale of come work in Russia, you'll be exposed to much more people, you'll be earning much more in terms of money. Everyone will love you. Who cares that you're now a Russian singer or a performer of Russian songs and not Ukrainian songs? Because who cares about Ukraine? But well, as it turned out, Ukraine is a viable market. It just needed to be fed enough of Ukrainian content of any quality. And I mean, it's important to have different quality of songs or movies or whatever, because then you kind of, as an audience member, you evolve your music taste. You start to discern which is bad, which is better. And the culture develops and it grows. And we have witnessed that after the launch of the full-scale invasion. Obviously, there were performers in the late 90s that I was very fond of, and who started off as Ukrainian artists, and then they got gradually bought off, right, or out by Russians. And the way that they did, they not as often they came directly to an artist, but they started to work with so-called labels or producer centers, where they were able to kind of cut the opportunity for development in the Ukrainian market, and then reveal that there's much more to be gained if you switch over to Russian, if you go tour in Russia, if you go perform at the corporate event for a sick bag of money, right? And that bred a lot of different perspectives and problems, because not yet competitive Ukrainian market couldn't afford to compete with Russian money, and you would get young artists and performers from Lviv switching over into Russian, which I guess to them wasn't quite normal, and they only now they start to go back to their own roots.
So Dima, I want to just actually I don't want to interrupt, but we had a really good comment from our audience, one of our members, Anna. And while you're still on that topic, you talk about, the Russian buying and the influence and the takeover. But one of the things that in the United States that we really fight a lot is censoring, whether it be free speech or music. Was there Russian censoring basically squashing artists, or, you know, using that word in particular? Was there, what examples of that, or was it even happening?
I'm not sure I'm aware about censorship, but they performed more of a shaping operations, I would say, on Ukrainian artists. It's like, well, if you do this and this and this, you will get that and that and that. And if you stay in Ukraine and if you keep on performing in Ukrainian, well, you'll go nowhere. You'll be like left alone, rotting in your little Ukraine and whatnot.
It's almost a type of national inferiority.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
something something that happened in 20s, I guess, where with the rise of the industrialization and the city population. Cities would get factories, right? People from smaller towns and villages would go in search for work, and they would assimilate. And something like that, I would assume, happened in the music industry as well. It's like, if you stay in your lane, if you stay in Ukraine, kind of nobody in air quotes would treat you seriously. So what you need to do, boy, you need to switch over to Russian. You need to come play in Moscow. We'll shower you with money. You can do whatever you want. A great example is Ivan Dorn, actually. So he would earn money in Russia, but then he would set up like studio and a lab in Ukraine to help Ukrainian artists develop. But still, it wasn't like you have to perform in Ukrainian only. Like, it's an opportunity. Maybe we'll invest something in you, and then we'll get you to tour Russia to earn even more money. And this way, you'd still be that cultural bridge between Ukraine and Russia. Well, since the start of the full-scale invasion, we haven't heard a lot from Ivan Dorn. I know that his lab, which was called Masterskaya, has closed down. Well, at least it's not active anymore, from what I know. So yeah, you have like all these different aspects coming together, but in the majority, it's like, we need Ukraine to be under control, and we would penetrate every facet, every possible area that would give us the ability to control them. Well, music, again, coming to the notion that we're a very musical culture nation. We either perform or we listen to music a lot. Obviously, before the invasion, Ukraine had huge festivals in Kyiv, and not only in Kyiv, with international stars coming in. I mean, we got a lot, from Kasabian to Prodigy to, I don't know, like even the ASAP crew visited Kyiv. I mean, we were on our way to become this really big part of the Western culture that we kind of always were, but with nuance, very violent nuance, I should say. So yeah,
I think you say Ukraine's a very musical culture and musical society, but one of the things I've noticed is that it's also a very politically active society. So, Olya, I think if you could, we spoke about the Orange Revolution in 2004, and then again the Maidan. So if you and Dima can, lead us on that, because there I'm stepping out.
Thanks, Jana. So basically, the Ukrainian music was always adjusting itself to the reality. And Ukrainian artists, okay, despite the ones that were bought out by the Russian culture, Russian market, there were still plenty of Ukrainian artists who remained within Ukraine, always wrote music in Ukrainian, and they tried to popularize their thoughts through Ukrainian language and popularize Ukrainian culture. And part of Russian propaganda was always that music is not political, that music is not politics. When Ukraine, it's a live proof that it's completely untrue. And we have very tight connection between Ukrainian music and Ukrainian art in general and the political agenda in the country. So artists are even more sensitive than your regular everyday person, right? Because they express their sensuality through the art. And they did a great job by being not silent and being active participant in the current political agenda in Ukraine. And like Jana mentioned, like, let's start with 2004, which was Orange Revolution. And I remember myself going to those protests where the Russian, pro-Russian president was trying to overrule the results of the election and pretend that he's actually elected president. And there was the protests, which started the Orange Revolution in support of the president who then actually became president. And part of that whole protest was the artists. There was plenty of performers who were performing on both sides, actually, but the side of the president who won the election actually was higher. And we saw that there was a lot of songs that became symbols of that revolution. And a lot of artists who actually use their art to speak up. And maybe, Dima, you can give us more insight into how music affects the political curriculum and how political curriculum affects the music in Ukraine.
Well, I immediately thought about the band, like a one-hit wonder band called Grinjoli, right?
Grinjoli, yes, yeah. I was thinking about them too.
Well, believe it or not, it was the very first song that I've downloaded over the dial-up internet back in the day. So yeah, the very first one. I remember I wanted to download another song, but well, the Orange Revolution happened, and then I saw, well, there was two guys, right? They were on a stage, and basically the whole song is a chant that if it's roughly translated into English, like it would be together we are a lot, like you cannot put us out, something like that. So in Ukrainian, it's "Разом нас багато, нас не подолати." Well, you cannot defeat us if we are united. And that gets picked up by hundreds of thousands of people live at Maidan. The political aspect of that is in that, and I think we'll talk about Eurovision, because like every major political crisis in Ukraine kind of is followed by Ukraine's win at the Eurovision. Well, it didn't happen with Grinjoli, obviously, because
obviously not.
The material wasn't.
It was a great political chant, but it wasn't a quality music, let's say that way, right?
Yes, and as much as I liked the song and the effect it produced, I really was against like sending them to Eurovision, because like it's a different thing. It's a song contest. Obviously, it's getting more and more political with time and with Ukraine's input. But like musically, it wasn't right for Eurovision. I guess the choice of the people back then was either Sashko Ponomaryov or was it Ani Lorak? I'm afraid
I don't remember.
it could have been. Okay, so the choice at the like national casting, or what is, how to properly say it, right, was an like true artist, like performer with an experience, but then political powers kicked in, and they kind of forced Grinjoli to become the winner of the national Eurovision Song Contest, and they were sent to perform at the Eurovision stage.
Are those the two girls?
No.
No,
That's the guys who no one remember from Eurovision. All the Eurovision fans out there would not remember them. I guarantee.
Got it.
Yeah. Even I
Got it.
am having a hard time to kind of bring their looks into my mind. But
One hit wonder.
Yeah. Well, it was a one hit, but very important nonetheless. Well,
What
after
about
them,
2014? Like in 2014, we had the Revolution of Dignity, right? The revolution that you guys can watch on Netflix. There is a documentary called Winter on Fire. So if you haven't seen that, you can actually like check it out on Netflix. It's documentary that was also nominated for the Oscar, didn't win though. But it does a great job depicting what was the revolution about, how it went, and that actually became like a pretext for Russia to start the invasion back in 2014. And I wanted to address the music at that time because like I've been to Maidan a little bit later than the main events of Maidan happened because I wasn't in the country at that time. But I remember that there was a huge stage on the main square in Kyiv, in Maidan. And there was a lot of performers who were coming on that stage and they were doing the political activism. They were supporting the protesters. They were on the protesters' side. They were showing like very strong political stand. And they knew that that could cost them the career, maybe, but they still did it. And that gave so much support to the protesters as well. And one of them is Sviatoslav Vakarchuk, the rock band in Ukraine that is super popular. It's called Okean Elzy. And they're actually the rock band that became super popular in Russia as well, even though they never performed song in Russian, like ever. They always performed in Ukrainian since the day they became Okean Elzy up to now. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about Ukrainian music during that time, and maybe we can say more about how Ukrainian music in 2014 was different from the one in 2004.
well, yeah, Ola, I remembered one thing. So in my mind, I had a conflict because obviously Grinjoli came up in 2004, but it was at the end of 2004. And that very year, our Ruslana has become a winner of the Eurovision, right? So like when the events were kind of still brewing, Ukraine got itself into a spotlight. Ruslana with her hit Wild Dances, which is, well, it's a pretty song. It's pretty energetic, well performed.
I love that song. I'll drop you the link in the chat, guys, so you can listen to it if you want to.
I think, if I remember correctly, it has even ended up at one of the radio stations inside the GTA 4 game, right?
I don't know. I haven't played GTA 4.
Or at least like Ruslana was one of the like radio hosts at one of the radio stations in the game. well, if we have gamers in the chat, I'm sure they
Any
can
gamers in
verify
the
that.
chat? Yeah, I don't know.
To
It's,
Vakarchuk's, by the way, to Vakarchuk's credit, he's from Lviv, right? And his whole band is from Lviv. Ola, a question for you. If I tell people that Okean Elysee is like a Ukrainian oasis, would that be far from an adequate comparison?
No, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good comparison.
Because UK music has like started to influence Ukrainian artists immediately after the independence. Well, I remember when first time I heard Prodigy, it kind of blew me away. I was maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and I heard Voodoo People, and I just lost it. I immediately went to buy a cassette and became a fan of Prodigy.
but I think, yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting is, and that's actually what I want, what would be interesting to ask you guys, because I know chat has been saying that like punk rock has kind of been in the American space and in the English space, music space. They've really been kind of your protest voice, your countercult, your kind of your against the system kind of music, you know? And I'm thinking of like I grew up in the 90s. For me, it was like Green Day kind of singing American Idiot and, you know, still kind of commenting on society kind of thing. In South Africa, we had a similar kind of thing with Afrikaans music, where in the 1960s, we had what you call the Sestigers, who were a bunch of musicians and artists who wrote protest songs against the apartheid government. And then once again, we had that in the early 2000s. A lot of people, Afrikaans musicians, kind of dealing with this, you know, what is going on with society right now. So is there any specific genre in Ukrainian music that is kind of dedicated to this kind of social commentary, social protesting, or is it a universal theme throughout all Ukrainian music?
Well, I would say it's more of a universal theme because whenever that like time of crisis comes, you'll get pop artists, rap artists, to hell with it, even jazz, all kind of express their stance. And right now, it's more evident than ever. Well, in terms of punk rock, I'd say
What is that face?
we'd get punk performers who were more like copying the Western ones rather than coming from their heart and kind of providing critical commentary on things that happen inside the country. Like immediately Skrabin, which is not a punk rock band, but she's one of the most vocal artists, like may he rest in peace, that used a kind of new wavy music inspired by the British scene in a way. Obviously very like influenced by Depeche Mode, but it was in his texts where he would express ideas, right, of like what should be right, like or what is right in here, or what is like wrong, in a more accessible form than any of Ukrainian punk rock bands would do. And I was a huge fan of Green Day. I was a huge fan of Blink-182. Well, until I learned English enough to understand what were they singing about. Still, huge fan of Travis Barker and kind of his person nulls like every silly sentiment that they have in their songs. I just enjoy how they sound. and yeah, I was just trying to copy the like Californian sound, and obviously was influenced a lot by the Russian so-called punk scene. But those bands in Russia that were kind of edgy in terms of like social commentary, it was really impossible to listen to them because of the poor quality of recordings. In Ukraine, it's having a hard time to kind of pull up something that was like critical of the society or with some like poignant social commentary. And even now, those bands who are considered themselves to be hardcore, they, for the most part, resemble like their Western idols more that they do something socially active, I'd say.
We do actually have a song from Dima, one of his old songs.
This is going to be awesome. It's just, a comment about when the war started, what Americans heard first in March of 2022 was the song Bayraktar. Everybody was playing that. And, I was sharing it and even people who weren't really aware of the war yet. And it was fun. And but it was a great way for everybody to go, wow, what are they writing about? But the other song too, that's been used on, it's actually used on a channel that is also pro-Ukraine is, I don't know if I can say this. It's Don't with Ukraine. That song. It's by Max Barskin, I think. And that one it's just got a beat. But we have a little surprise for our audience now.
Don't F with Ukraine, right? The song
Yeah, I can't say the word, but I if I had my bleeper like Dick's the master, I don't have my bleeper just yet.
I said it myself. I was
Let's do it Apple way. Don't duck with Ukraine, right?
Yes. Don't duck. The autofill chat or the texting autofill.
Dick in chat, just put it in for anyone who could not figure that one out. Thank you, Dick.
That's capital as it could get.
But we have a surprise here. We have one of Dima's song, and I actually picked this song. While we were preparing for the show, he put some of his links up. So you have some music in SoundCloud, and this one, I just loved it because it was a little bit smooth jazz, and then it turns into a beat, and he's got a little, I don't know if it's rap going in there, but I just loved it. So, Dima, can you tell us a little about your song Runnin', and then we're going to play that?
Well, sometimes when I write songs, I don't really know why I've done that, but then with time, they kind of reveal themselves to me. So when I wrote Runnin', it was 2018. So yeah, the war has started. Yeah, we've lost parts of Donbass and we've lost Crimea. So I was already like living in the sentiment that bad things happen and conflicts are breeding, right? Not only in Ukraine, but it kind of just, I don't know, like many musicians tell that, like, well, it kind of just manifested through me. But in my case, it kind of, yeah, this is what happened. I mean, when I wrote those songs, that song, I mean, it was there. It was just like pretty music and text that I was okay with. I mean, usually I'm quite critical of myself, and I don't love like the majority of what I do because I'm also a lazy person, and I cannot like polish it out for me to be like to be confident in those songs enough. And what's more, I'm more of a like musician in other bands, so I often kind of, in terms of my own material, I would just leave that sitting on the shelf until better times. And well, who knew that this moment is a better better time that I'm talking about? So
I get what you mean about that, because I write my own stuff, and I still consider myself a novice, but so things will go 9 months, and then they'll come to me, a change, an intro change, an outro change. The words will change. One of my songs recently went from something that was very personal. I kind of changed it to be Christian music, and I'm like, where am I going with this? So I think it's going to go back. I don't know. But Dick has your song queued up, and it's a little, I think it's a little over 2 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and play that for our audience. I can't wait.
I've been running around, running around, running. I've been running around, running around, running. I've been running around, running around, running. I'm running. This never ends. The world is heating up and spinning every day. Crisis increasing, endless warfare and unrest. It seems that no one gonna save us, no one cares. No one can tell the way I feel. I've been running around, running around, running. I've been running around, running around, running. I've been running around, running around, running. I'm running.
Wow. I love that more than the first few times I listened to it. That crescendo at the end, it just gives, I don't know, it gave me chills. But, and I guess because I'm a musician and I like absorb emotion, and that crescendo is like just building. Oh, yes. Sorry.
I remember the first time.
I had to have my moment there. Sorry, everybody. Everybody on this channel knows that, Dick's a musician, and he called me musician. I don't know if I earned that yet, but we just love to get into that talk, Dima. And we actually did talk to our viewers, we did talk to Dima about joining us on some of the programs, our kind of pub chat type programs where we're just talking about music and stuff. So if you all love this, you have to tell Dima he has to come back on one of those programs. So, Jana, you were going to say something, and then we have another fun topic to go into. So,
yeah. Well, my audio just sounded really weird. My playback. Anyway, I remember when Dima sent me the song when we first started chatting, and he was like this. I'm like, this is so chill. It's like just that kind of vibe, so
I'm speechless.
Really?
Well, you hear me talking, but this moment is crazy. It's crazy for me.
Dima speechless? What?
You got fangirls now. Yeah, you got a whole new fan base. Yeah, and we're going to drop some more links for everybody. We'll probably do it in Discord, and if we can put some in chat, we'll still try here, maybe during the Q&A. So, is it a good time to ask a question about music videos?
Well, I just want Dima just wants to finish saying something.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I'm with you on that, Annette. I don't really consider myself a musician. I'm just a fan of music. And the way I exercise my love for music is playing it. I broke my dad's guitar when I was 1 year old or something like that. So that was my first guitar that got broken. And when I was already playing like in bands back in Mariupol, I would get behind drums whenever our drummer would have a smoke break. That would piss him off. Like I can't even tell you how much, but that was like when I was growing up. Didn't have much of an opportunity to kind of learn to play drums or even play them elsewhere. So used that opportunity. I kind of inserted myself as a guitar player into a band that had a live drummer, and then used that opportunity to get behind drums whenever I could. Definitely not a musician, but a music lover in a way. Well, shall we now transition into?
Sure, I have a great topic here. You broke your first guitar a long time ago. I think I broke mine like 2 months ago. God, I have another one. No, I have several, but that's another day. So, in the United States and all around the world, I think the MTV, the premiere of that a long time ago, changed music so much because we were just used to listening to things on the radio and I guess cassette tapes at that time. So people, I know my older brother, he had 8 tracks, but it wasn't that wasn't my thing. But so music videos they often tell a story right along with the music. Some of them are just cool. They have just dancers that look good. My audio's getting weird here. Is everything okay?
It's me, sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing echoes. So music videos, they did tell a story. Some of them just had beautiful women dancing, and they still do. But I'm interested in music videos in Ukraine and kind of how they started, how they changed, and then how things changed with the invasions. And what about like what people use for backgrounds and locations, and how all of that has changed and adapted with the invasion. And I think there's an American artist too that did a video too with a background on that. Jana, which one was that? It was let's see, I have that here. But I think Dima, you know that one, but it's let's see, who was that? I have it here. We had
I think so. Let's break that question up into pieces. So we've got the question about what I do want to talk about just first is music videos. And then I do want to ask Dima a bit about, the genres that have evolved since the full-scale invasion, or since actually 2014. And then also just the effect the full-scale invasion has had on on Ukraine on the international music scene. But I think Annette's question on music videos is really just kind of to echo what she's saying, the quality of Ukrainian music videos, if you guys have ever seen it. Like, you've got Onuka, and I am forgetting other names now, and also that is why I'm not a musician. You just heard that. But the production quality of Ukrainian music videos are just outstanding. So Dima, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, there's so much to unpack, I guess. I think one of the main things is that because we didn't have that multitude of opportunities or resources for the aspiring video artists who were coming up in Ukraine, the majority of them are self-taught. And I know a couple of guys that were starting out as photographers. So they would visit shows, they would take photos, they would, through photos, they would connect with the artists, and they would start advancing in the scene. And let's say people that were just starting out maybe 10, 13 years ago, right now, well, I can consider them accomplished music video directors because they had to do so many on a shoestring budget. They've used to find different creative solutions to the task at hand with what they have. Or rather, it's what they don't have that made them search and find those creative solutions. Well, obviously, let's just get it out there right away. Tanya Muinyo, I guess, is the most well-known Ukrainian music director that's worked with just mega stars, right? To name a few, Harry Styles, Dua Lipa, Lil Nas X, who else? My God, her list is Miley Cyrus, right? The list goes on and on. Post Malone, right? I think she did something for Britney Spears and Doja Cat.
And Cardi B, yes.
Yeah.
The last video of Dua Lipa is actually her work, where they build out this whole statue out of human bodies and everything. That's her work.
And what's more interesting is that her crew is also Ukrainian. So the director of photography is a Ukrainian guy. One of the other things that influenced her being propelled into this, well, let's say, music director stardom is that Ukraine pre-invasion was a very popular destination for music video filming crews. It was rather cheap. You could, well, I guess, it was easier in Ukraine to get the necessary permits to kind of if you need to close off like a section of a city to film car chases or whatnot, like a bridge, right? You could do that in Ukraine. I mean, when I was rewatching some of the music videos that we were gonna talk about, right, on air, the Mark Ronson and Miley Cyrus's one, which has the Darnitsky Bridge, that I would take almost every day to go into the central part of Kyiv, right, and to go back to the left bank. That bridge was one of the stars of that music video, and for people who have seen the video itself, so the final scene is this Mercedes-Benz that Miley is allegedly or presumably riding in, gets crashed, like it gets flipped, and this like crescendo scene, right, of the music video. And I actually know the guy who was the stunt man and riding inside this Mercedes. So you get affordable talent in terms of production crews. You'll get like different, I'd say, parts of the city to serve as a background for your video, and we have a lot. We have like from the like old depressive Soviet blocks of flats to this ultra modern ones. Well, just the beauty of the scenery, but yeah, somehow at least a couple of videos that I saw would just concentrate on the Soviet era leftovers in the far districts of the city, and Ukraine was slowly but surely turning into a music video production hubs. Just to name a few, just to name drop a bit. We had Bring Me the Horizon filming their mantra in here. We had Ed Sheeran filming his two-step in Kyiv. Nothing But Thieves, Amsterdam, and we've mentioned Miley Cyrus and Mark Ronson, Strome as well, and even one of the Apple Watch commercials was also filmed in Ukraine. So you have accessible talent, you have a good quality of people who, you can only make it out as a music director or film director in Ukraine when you are really, really passionate about it. When you don't really care about the income and you care more about your artistic expression, how you would do things and how would you put your own twist on script, right? Actually, this holds true for sound producers as well. I know a lot of people who produce music, and they were, well, in the majority of them were producing and selling their music to Russian artists. Just because more money, I know it's not really a really unpleasant topic to talk about money, but the reality of it is that it's just more people there, more people with resources are also there. But a large chunk of Ukrainian music producers have stopped working with Russian artists since the start of the full-scale invasion. I mean, it's debatable whether it is right for them to have been working with Russian artists like all throughout 2013 to 2022, because, well, frankly, to a lot of people, especially in the central Ukraine, in the western part of Ukraine, the war in Donbass or the annexation of Crimea, it was very, very, very far from them. And when it's very, very, very far from you, it's hard to attach yourself to the events that are going on, and it's the territory of Ukraine is rather large, and it's both an advantage and a disadvantage. Advantage is obviously when missiles are aimed at Lviv, our air defense angels have enough time to kind of intercept them and destroy them. And as we were listening to my song, actually, my area got the air alert, right? And I've even managed to see that there's a missile coming somewhere, like in the vicinity of where I live. But I mean, it happens every day. Just yesterday we had a massive missile strike, the day before that as well. Not to mention that every night we have a drone attack. And sometimes those drones, they act creative as well, in a way.
Yeah, Dima, I know in the documentary that Olga sent, and I know you rewatched it as well. And guys, it was quite funny because I was watching it and now there was this one Ukrainian word and I messaged Olga and Dima, I'm like, what does this mean? And they're like, how do you even know about this? I'm like, it's from the documentary. They're like, worst song ever, don't look it up.
I don't know.
It's literally the song is like flip-flops and it's like flip-flops, I'm flipping in my flip-flops. That's basically the lyrics.
I'm
Okay.
flip-flopping my way the hell out away from you, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But kind of at the end of that documentary, they say this thing where they say Russian culture is a weapon, and therefore culture in Ukraine is a factor of national security. And I think that was a really powerful statement to make. And
Yeah,
it
definitely.
really it drives that point home, really. But Annette, you'll have to tell me if we have time for this question, because we do want to take viewer questions. But Dima, if you could tell me just a bit, how has the full-scale invasion affected Ukraine's presence on the international music scene, and how has it affected the music scene in Ukraine, specifically pertaining to, bands with male performers and, also just, like I said, Ukraine's presence in the international music scene?
Well, it's easy because it's non-existent. Those performers that have the opportunity to perform outside of Ukraine have either left Ukraine before the full-scale invasion or during the full-scale invasion, but it seems that they are so successful that they have their tour lasting for 2.5 years, right? So the problem with music artists in particular not coming back is in that the government has started to control who gets to go outside and who doesn't in a more tight manner. So actually my friends, musicians who could represent Ukraine on a global stage in a very decent way, they just cannot leave the country. And at the same time, performers from Russia have all the opportunity to go and perform in the US, for example. Europe, not so sure. But it's easy for them, and wherever our artists don't perform means that the Russians would. It's a very sensitive question, I guess, in a way. But the situation is as follows. I'd say we had the quantity of performers that were representing Ukraine before the full-scale invasion on the global stage wasn't huge. Like if we have any metal or post-hardcore fans in the chat, if I told you that a band that was, I guess, active in 2011, 2012, called Make Me Famous, was signed to Sumerian Records. Actually people from my hometown, a couple of them. So yeah, they got out, they toured the US back in the day. The band called Ginger is also like the music is their bread and butter, and they cannot not perform music, so they stay in Europe. I wouldn't call it like a quality representation of the Ukrainian culture, because their views are questionable, to say the least. But they are out there, and at the same time, great bands that could have been representing Ukraine are just stuck in here. And I know for a fact that a lot of guys who are in those bands are preparing themselves to go and serve the country.
We do have some Ukrainian performers in the military, right? Maybe you could name a few. I know that the guy from Boombox, the soloist, the one that the guys were mentioning, his video with Kyiv, the South African musician, who made like a remix of the Chervona Ruta song, the one that was performed by Boombox at the start of the full-scale invasion. Not sure what it's called in English. The red, what is that, Jana?
Sure, we don't translate it. It doesn't translate properly.
Okay, so
properly.
It's Chervona Ruta, it is, right?
We just kind of stick to it, yeah.
Actually, there's an interesting story about Chervona Ruta. It was a song written by somebody from the Sichevi Streltsi Corps during the Ukrainian Revolution of 1917-1920. And Sichevi Streltsi, back in the era of Ukrainian Revolution, is like Azov now. So very capable, very disciplined, one of the best military formations that Ukrainian People's Republic had at that time. So someone from Sichevi Streltsi has written Chervona Ruta, and they used it as a marching song when they were advancing on Kyiv to kick the Bolsheviks out. Then we had decades where nobody knew about that song. And in February of 2022, Andriy Khlivnyuk, who is the lead singer of the Boombox band, just, out of the blue, there was a video of him singing that song. And I was blown away because I just happened to know a bit about the history of the song, about the story of the song. And I was like, okay, so this is like a generational thing. And in the hardest time of crisis, that song has kind of just revealed itself, bubbled up to the surface, and through Khlivnyuk, it kind of infected, if I may say so, the crowd, to the extent that the guys from Pink Floyd, right, performed it and recorded it. I remember Khlivnyuk telling the story at one of the Ukrainian podcasts recently about the song, and it turned out that I think Gilmer's son is married to a Ukrainian woman. So he's like very close to us, and it was a blessing, yeah, for him to even notice or for somebody to just bring his attention to what Khlivnyuk did. It obviously became once again became a huge song and a huge morale and confidence boost for us Ukrainians inside the country, and also a great advert of our culture outside of the country. Well, you have Khlivnyuk, who is serving his country. You have Torvalds, lead singer and guitar player. Oh my god! Yevhen. Why? His name escaped me. Zhenya Halich. So obviously have Kolya Serga from Odessa, who is featured in the documentary that we keep coming back to. We have Kozlovsky, who's also enlisted in the military to kind of...
And we will put all these names. I will rewatch the video, collect all these names, send it to Annette, and she can put a pinned comment, and then everyone can go like, look at these people because
Click.
Yeah.
And we also have the Antibodies, right? The guys who Anti-Tila, Ukrainian band, who made a song "Want to Step" with Ed Sheeran, and it was like half filmed in Ukraine and half filmed in UK.
Yeah, and then guys, we do need to get to viewer questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and we actually have a super chat. This one actually is for Olga. You have a beautiful smile. Please buy lunch and smile at some Ukrainian soldiers. The value of a smile is priceless, especially during war. For $10. Thank you, Desad. That is so thoughtful. Wow. That's awesome.
That is true, and Ola does have a beautiful smile.
She does.
It's an Ola thing, you know. I know another Ola who has a beautiful smile as well.
So we are going to jump into some viewer questions here. Thank you to my crew who's been collecting them in the background. A couple of them are comments, and I think I'm just going to read some comments that I picked out here that are quite poignant. So let's see. Somebody said, artistic expression doesn't go far without some money. And that was a little bit earlier in our video. And unfortunately, that is true at all levels. Even as a novice, when I had gone to a music writing camp, the first thing they said was, well, if you write a song, hire a band to play your music. Don't play your own music. So, but Dima, can you comment a little bit? You have done productions, and is it more expensive, less expensive because everybody's sort of sourcing everything during the conflict, by themselves. Can you comment about costs of actual music production and video production?
Well, getting back to the question, or rather to what we were discussing pertaining to music video directors, well, a lot of musicians are self-taught and self-made, always on a shoestring budget. So I write and record everything myself, as do pretty much everyone that I know, talking about my friends musicians. They are either started off writing and recording themselves, and they've excelled in that, so people started to turn to them asking to produce a record. So someone has managed to make a living out of being a record engineer, sound producer. Obviously, the pop culture, the mass market aspect of music production has always came with an additional cost. And in Kyiv, at least, I know we have like this whole, we used to have at least, a large building with only like studios. So over 20 studios of different size and quality. So when an artist or an artist producer would require a song written, he would just go there and, well, at least 1, 2, or 3 studios would fit their requirements, both like monetary and artistic. I would say right now, amidst the war, we have a resurrection of Ukrainian-made talent, obviously. And it turned out that you can get famous in Ukraine with enough people knowing about you so that you could support yourself in a way. Well, at least you have the opportunity to quit your day job and transition into being a full-time musician, rather than what my case. I work at the job, and then whenever I have free time or inspiration, I do music. I'd say 99% of Ukrainian musicians, first they have to earn the bread, yeah, and then do music, which sometimes it's away from your inspiration, just because you need to worry about other things or how to get by. An interesting aspect that has manifested itself during the war as well is crowdfunding. So everyone donates right now. A lot of artists have their own like Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon accounts. It's impossible to treat it without like sense of a guilt when like obviously all of the available resources should be donated to Ukrainian military, because without this, without them, we would not be able to even talk right now, write music, record music, shoot music videos, right? But it's still important to support your favorite content creators. The like video blogging scene or YouTube segment of it, I guess, has the upper hand in terms of like managing crowdfunding. Musicians, I guess they are still like getting there. I believe there's nothing shameful in asking the audience to support your craft, because these are like the most direct and sincere relationships, I believe. You don't, as a musician, you don't need to go and sell yourself to a label where they would change you, or where they would tell you that, okay, now you have to perform in Russian just because we need to, break even on you, right? We're investing in you, we're giving you studio time, we're giving you sound producers, but yeah, you have to go perform at some oil tycoon's, mansion, in order for our label to continue to be successful. Labels more and more becoming a thing of the past, or maybe they just, will remain as this mass market thing, but more independent artists will be supported by their fan base, and in that case, I believe it creates more direct and honest relationships between the artist and the audience.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And I think that's something that actually works out for American artists too. There's a huge relationship, a direct relationship between the fans and the YouTube artists too, and the way that they can directly support them through their direct means without having a lot of people in between. And as far as musicians in Ukraine too, I can say personally that the music that has come out of Ukraine that is in English and has reached us, the Bayraktar and the other song we were talking about, they are powerful and they are a message and they are helping a lot because they're reaching hearts and minds. We have another question here that I'm not sure if you can answer, but the band Pussy Riot was really popular as far as they were in Russia. They were, oh, we have audio things here. I have an audio.
Olga, can you maybe just mute yourself again?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We
Thank
just
you.
have some audio issues.
But they were, dissidents, and their music was against the war and everything. And I think they kind of split and went to different places. I'm not sure if you can comment on that, but it was a viewer question as to what happened to that band.
Well, pussies don't riot, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, they are still alive, right? And they are still alive. If they are still alive, means that some dynamics may be going on between them and the government. Because from what I observe, anyone who is considered to be dangerous, right, or radical by the Russian government ends up in jail and dead.
Or they go out, they take flying lessons out of a window and fail.
Something like that. Yeah.
We found that out. Okay.
On the topic of Pussy Riot, just let me, sorry, quickly. Do you guys remember there was this Russian band who actually won Eurovision or something? Since we were on the topic of Eurovision, they used to pretend being gay couple. Tattoo, which was super popular, and they were called against the Russian and general narrative. They were standing up against the war and everything, and then it turned out that they were working on Russian government money, and they were paid for projects to show Western world that there are Russians like that. And they were not lesbians at all, and both of them had families, kids, etc. So Pussy Riot goes down that bucket for me too.
I mean, controlled opposition is what they do, right? So they would go out of their way to create a sense of protest or opposition, but then slowly but surely manipulate their audience to the benefit of the central government.
Navalny.
So we have another really good question from actually our own Janine Terblanc. She says, do you know the band Grandma's Smoothie? They have been traveling through Ukraine doing shows and fundraisers for the military. Grandma's Smoothie, S-M-U-Z-I.
I haven't heard about the band Grandma's Smoothie, but I know there are bands from outside of Ukraine who travel to Ukraine and tour Ukraine. God's Hawk, one of them. They are Ukrainian expats, so people who left Ukraine a long time ago, but they put together a band, and their bass player is still based in Ukraine, but the other three guys, two of them are Ukrainians living outside of Ukraine for a long time, and one of them is an American guy from California. By the way, I want to acknowledge one thing, that it is very hard to be a musician in the United States. And I have a couple of friends who are musicians and who essentially, they are very talented. The music is very, very good, but their shows attend 5, 10, 15 people. And in 2018, when we brought them over from LA to Ukraine, according to them, that was the most, the greatest time of their musical career, because all of a sudden, a completely unknown band from LA gets into Ukraine, and first people get interested just because, wow, a band from LA? Okay, where did they perform? I need to go see them. So when they end up at the show, the quality of the music was so good that by the end of their set, everyone was dancing, the place turned on its head. And obviously when you, as a musician, get that much of a feedback, the energy exchange gets sent from the stage and arrives back to the stage. It makes something to you. It does something to you. And I will be happy to have them back when the war is over. I hope it will be over someday soon. And I would encourage artists from outside of Ukraine to kind of look at Ukraine as this really perspective, the ground to foster their fan base, because like in the 2000s, right, and 2010s, we would get bands that were popular like maybe 20 years ago finally visiting Ukraine, but I hope that will change soon, and more like currently popular artists.
It's kind of like the retirement tour that bands do.
Yeah.
We have
like,
that in South Africa as well. It's like the retirement tour.
Like I went to see Korn and Limp Bizkit like 5 years after I like listened to like them for the last time. So
but some of them have like 10 years retired tour, and they keep on retouring, but still retiring, right?
It's like they're like sports people. They say they're going to retire, they're done, and then they're back.
Like how many times has the Backstreet Boys come out of retirement?
No, not again. So,
but yeah, here's another question. Sorry.
We have another. This is actually a really good question, and I know we might be throwing you on some of these, but our viewers are quite intelligent. They have very good questions, and I have to go back to actually read this. Taras Shevchenko, has anyone ever put his poetry to music?
Oh yeah, numerous times. Yeah, you have put me under a spotlight.
I was actually mentioning from the last one is Artem Pivovarov. He did the song called Duma.
I was gonna say that as well. It's like the most like prominent thing that that comes to my mind.
From the recent ones, yeah.
Yeah. I'm very happy for Artem because we used to play in the same band, but different stages of that band. Like he would be singing in that band in 2010. I would be playing bass in that same band in 2018 during the tour that I've just told you about. Yeah, but he's great. It's great when you know, entering the subway and you're all kind of like, I need to go to work, I need to do that, and you just suddenly see like a photo of Artem of like, I don't know, 5 meters in height and 3 meters wide, and I'm like, well, great, super cool. So Duma Moja Duma, yeah, and
Scriabin did the song Meni Однаково, like it means the same to me from the translation. That song is also based on Shevchenko lyrics.
I would say not Shevchenko, but Tues. And one of my friends, the band is called Dmytro. They have the song, it's called Vasil, and it's done to Vasil Tues's poem. It's a bit more on the heavier side, but you should definitely check that out if you're into heavier styles of music.
Maybe Olga can find some links and we can put them in Discord later. I think we'll take one more question and then we'll start doing our wrap-ups. There's somebody who actually wanted opinions about the bands, and I did put them so that you can see them in the chat that we have. And I hope I don't massacre these names. Bands Goa, Skovka, Anuka, and Sapasa.
Kipasa, yeah.
Kipasa. Okay. It didn't just say, he just said what about, maybe just about opinions or if you like them or relevance.
Goa, great representation of Ukraine on the global scene. I'm not into them.
I like them.
Skovka, it seems that he has one song just sung differently every time.
Just by the way, guys, Dima is a snob. Just saying that.
But I agree with that.
Dima and Olga are snobs, so it's okay to disagree with him.
Yeah,
but
this is another thing that gets us closer to the Western world, right? We're not that different. Apologies. Not only am I a snob, and I'm also a mean person. Anuka, I like Anuka very much, and her husband Evgeny Filatov, the mannequin, also great sound producer. I know one of Ola's favorite bands, the Elephants, were signed to his label. He now does a YouTube project. He travels like every major city in Ukraine, like Chernihiv, I guess Kharkiv, Dnipro, and he does his episodes like The Sound of Dnipro, for example, where he just goes about and around and collects different sounds and composes tunes out of that.
Which is super cool. Super cool.
Kipasa, great electronic artist. Go check out his Kyiv video. There's beautiful drone footage of our beautiful capital, and it actually has an old song that one of my uncles would sing during like birthdays or family holidays. It's about Kyiv. It's very beautiful. If you would like to check out other like electronic bands, I would definitely recommend Cape Cod, electronic duo. Songs in English and songs in Ukrainian as well.
Do you still have that thread up pinned on your Twitter? At a time, Dima had a thread on his Twitter where he just posted new Ukrainian music. And that's how I actually started following him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how I started following you. And then, yeah.
All right. Now the truth has revealed itself.
Yeah.
I forget to post there. I mean,
yeah, you don't like Melon.
Melon Tusk.
Melon Tusk.
He's a very complicated person. And what he did to Twitter and call it X, it's a very complicated subject.
Oh yeah, and it's about to get worse. I mean, I told you previously about the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Telegram's founder Pavel Durov. Yeah, people in the US, brace yourselves. Something nasty is coming, because Pavel Durov is very fond of Elon Musk, and God knows, he has 900 million active users in his Telegram messaging app, and yeah, just beware.
Wow. Well, we are going to start our wrap-ups now. I want to thank everybody, all our viewers for joining us today. It is our second stream. We're still a little green at all this. We're kind of figuring out our energy and gelling a little bit, but I think everybody's doing an awesome job. And thank you, Dima, so much for being here too. I want to thank all of our team. Shayna Caldwell was behind the Shills account today, taking my job, and BME, our quintessential greeter. And we had Crazy Cat, who's in there doing whatever he does. And and we had Janine Terblanc, who she is just amazing. She's been my team member for quite a while now, the mercenary mod. So thank you everyone for that. Thank you for super chats, and I encourage super chats just so that we can keep the channel going, but they also do help support Ukraine, and know that anything that does come into the show will go to support Ukraine too. So you're supporting at every channel or every show that Shills does, and I appreciate that very much, and I think you guys know that when I'm in the chat. So we are going to go to our the host next to give their closing statements, and then Dima is going to close us out, and we have another little surprise after that.
Oh yeah, You want to go?
Yeah, actually, this time I'm better prepared. I brought the dog on so she doesn't bark this time to close the space. I actually put her here to control her. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for tuning in. It's a great pleasure to have such a fantastic team of Shills to support this show, to create this show. Thank you so much, all the hosts and all the background team that does make this show even possible, for all your efforts. Thank you, our fantastic viewers, for all your support, for such an active communication, for loving music, for loving Ukrainian music as well. And thank you, Dima. On to you, Jana.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot something. Dick Dawson. Oh my God.
You're fired next morning.
You're fired.
I'm fired. I'm trying to get into this role too, and he's the master, and I just love him. He's taught me so much. But thank you, Dick, because you're back there and you are the master. You're the sound engineer, the video engineer, everything. Okay.
And a chat master today too.
Okay, firstly, yes, Stretch. I will rewatch the stream and then get all the names of the musicians, the music we listen to, all of that. I will send it through to Annette because she is the one that has logins to the Awesome Shills account, and then she can post it as a comment and pin it. We'll also post it on the Shills Discord so that you guys have access to all of the music that has been mentioned in here. Then, thank you to the mods. You guys are awesome. I don't know how you keep track of chat. Like, you guys are absolute legends. Dima, thank you for being here. And then, guys, after this, head on over to Rick's stream. Halina is there. I'm not sure if Pete is still there or if he was even there. He was supposed to be there, and I am also going to be there. So head on over to Rick's stream after you've listened to Dima, because he has a surprise. So Dima, go to you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This initiative that you are running is incredible. I felt like I was at one of the talk shows that I used to love when I was watching Conan O'Brien or Jimmy Kimmel. Always dreamt about a moment like this. Apologies for if I've butchered anything. Again, not a music expert, more of a music lover that tries to exercise his love by playing music. Thank you to the great people in the chat. Great questions. Again, apologies for maybe skipping or omitting something in my replies. Again, Jana, Annette, Olga, Rick, Dick. Great team effort. I mean, I've witnessed a bit what it means to run a show like this, and as always with something of a good quality, it's a lot of work, and you guys are doing an amazing job to make the show happen. You go length to make the hosts feel super comfortable, and I'm super grateful for you once again for having me and for treating me like a star that I'm gonna be. So couldn't contain myself.
It's fine. You promised us you'll come on the stream for free, so in future. So you promised us that, when you're a big celeb, we're still gonna have Dima here.
Yep. So can you
have forever tickets to the first row of my shows.
Yes.
You said it on stream, it's recorded.
It's gonna be forever, recorded.
Yeah. Okay, so our outro song is going to be another one of Dima's songs. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
що не